All right, time now for Start 'em and Sit 'em, presented by California Almonds. I'm James Kell. He is Michael Fabiano. He's got his Start and Sits ready for us. You can find his full column by going to NFL.com/startsit. All right, Fabs, we're going to start at the quarterback position. Who do you like?
Well, let's start off with Phillip Rivers, who seems to be on my Start 'em and Sit 'em list every single week.
Sure.
He's been on fire, leads the league in passing yards right now. He's got a great matchup on Monday night against the Bears. They've given up the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. And Rivers has 19-plus fantasy points in every home game this year, James. So start Phillip Rivers. I'm playing on benching, well, Andrew Luck. And
no!
You probably can't afford to sit him. Who knows? With 6 teams on a bye, it's going to be difficult. But after what I saw the Broncos do to Aaron Rodgers last week, I am officially scared of that defense. And Luck has not been the same quarterback that we've come to know and love in recent seasons. The Broncos right now allowing an average of fewer than 9 fantasy points per game. So if you have another quarterback who you have confidence in, Andrew Luck should find his way to your bench.
How crazy is that Broncos defense, Dad?
And how crazy is it that I'm telling people to bench Andrew Luck?
Oh, it hurts.
That is insane.
It hurts.
It does.
Walk me through the rest of your Start 'em and Sit 'em quarterbacks here.
Start Eli. Ben Roethlisberger's going to bounce back. Andy Dalton will as well right here on NFL Network. Guys I'm sitting, all based on the matchups. Blake Bortles, Ryan Tannehill, and that Cowboys defense has been good, so I'm benching Sam Bradford.
All right, at the running back position, what to do with Doug Martin?
Bit of a disappointment last week, right?
A little bit.
I think he bounces back against the G-men. They've given up an average of over 23 fantasy points per game to running backs over the last 4 weeks. And Martin's been pretty good at home, averaging 27 fantasy points in his last 2 home games. So start the Boise State product. A player I'm benching, TJ Yeldon. A very good, young, up-and-coming running back, but I don't like the matchup against the Jets. They've allowed an average of fewer than 12 fantasy points per game to running backs, despite what Latavius Murray did to them last week. They've also only allowed 1 rushing touchdown to a running back, so I am keeping the faith. The Jets will be motivated. I'm benching Yeldon.
Doug Martin, by the way, has been sneaky good. A top 3 fantasy back right now in the game.
I don't know if that says
injuries.
more about the running back position or Martin, but he has
a
been
little bit
good.
of both. Yeah, absolutely. Walk me through the rest of your Start 'em and Sit 'em running backs.
Jeremy Hill is a good play. So is Gio Bernard, by the way, against the Browns.
Absolutely.
Have the faith in Chris Ivory. D'Angelo Williams, my pal, he's back in the good graces after Le'Veon Bell, unfortunately, blew out his knee. And guys, I'm sitting. Latavius Murray back again on that list. Melvin Gordon and Alfred Morris is basically a permanent sit, but there's 6 teams on a bye, so I kind of had to stick him on there.
Darren McFadden is interesting as well. Gosh, I think
Eagles are tough. He's a volume play, but the Eagles' defense is tough against running backs.
All right, at the wide receiver position, who do you like?
Emmanuel Sanders. This is more validation than anything else, James, because most people are going to start him, but last week he was terrible. 2.2 fantasy points, but the Colts have allowed an average of over 26 fantasy points to wide receivers this year. And Sanders has actually been better on the road than he's been at home this year. So keep the faith and keep him active. Another player at wide receiver, well, how about Randall Cobb? I'm not starting him this week. I am putting him on the bench. I told you to bench him last week, and he didn't have a good game. This week, he plays the Panthers. They've allowed an average of 34.7 yards per game to wide receivers.
I'm sorry,
in the #1 capacity for their opposition, and no touchdowns. It's called Norman Penitentiary, and Randall Cobb could be serving hard time this week. So I'm keeping Cobb on my bench.
I love that Josh Norman has become one of the scariest dudes in all of fantasy.
Dude, he is the Michael Myers of cornerbacks.
Absolutely. All right, let's walk me through, Fabs, the rest of your starting.
More validation. Amari Cooper, get him back in your lineup. Des Bryant has done very well against the Eagles in his career, and they haven't been good against wide receivers this year. I like Eric Decker, who's been underrated. Guys I'm benching, Allen Robinson because of Revis Island, T.Y. Hilton because of, well, the Broncos are just that darn good. And Jarvis Landry could struggle against the Bills this weekend.
All right, at the tight end position, Benjamin Watson has been a bit of a surprise.
He was a stardom last week for me, and I like him again this week. You know, he has been averaging over 111 yards in his last 3 games. He's also put up 54.9 fantasy points in the last 4 weeks, and it would have been better, but he had that touchdown called back against the Colts. And who needs Jimmy Graham when Drew Brees can now throw it to Ben Watson? Start him against the Titans. A player I'm sitting, it breaks my heart, but Jason Witten, I know you're a part of my beloved Cowboys. You're going to the Hall of Fame, but you're going to the bench this week in fantasy football. The Eagles have allowed 1 touchdown to a tight end in their last 21 games. And if you look at Witten's numbers, unless you're in a PPR league, they have been pedestrian at best I'm seeing Witten dropped in some leagues right now, James. It's been that bad.
All right, there you go. Walk me through the rest of your tight end starts and sits.
Well, let's see. The Raiders are not good on tight ends. Heath Miller had a big game last week. 1-1 equals 2.
You do the math.
Stardom Jordan Reed, on average, has been the second most targeted tight end in the league. I also like Benjamin Watson, as we mentioned. Guys I'm benching. Julius Thomas against the Jets, you probably have to play him, but it's not a good matchup.
Nope.
Jordan Cameron, Kyle Rudolph is just too touchdown dependent for me, and it's a
He's
tough
done
matchup
nothing
against those St. Louis Rams.